there was news going from the start of the day to the end. It was one of those wild up and down days for LSU, just from recruiting, coaching, everything. I mean, it was a wide range of emotions. I think a lot of LSU fans are in a glass case of emotion after Corey Raymond left, though.
What did you make of Frank Wilson joining the staff, leaving McNeese from his head coaching post?
I mean, it's awesome for LSU. I mean, especially with Brian Kelly coming down from the Midwest and having pretty much spent his entire career up there. That gets you in with so many people just right off the bat in recruiting, high schools, players. There's so much respect for him. You saw him visiting Tremonte Citizen, the 4-star running back, on Wednesday, and he had his LSU leather jacket on that I bet he just dusted right off from the old closet and just put it right on. And he just legitimizes a lot of what Brian Kelly's trying to do, and especially in the recruiting world, I think. And a lot of the players, you saw them take to Twitter and support that LSU brought him back. I mean, it really helps, I think, Brian Kelly's long-term plan and getting him a little bit more support, in all facets.
What does it mean to lose Corey Raymond to LSU football? What was the impact that he made, he leaves behind, and he takes to Gainesville?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think with Corey, you're almost guaranteed each year to land one of the best corners in the country. That's what he's shown with Derek Stingley, Christian Fulton, Eli Ricks. They were in it and still are in it for Denver Harris. In this class, we'll see how that impacts Denver Harris coming up. And then he just has that trust within his group that he's going to develop them and put them in the right position. We saw really probably one of his best coaching jobs this year when he had to deal with a lot of injuries with Eli Ricks and Derek Stingley and rolling out Dwight McLaughlin and Darren Evans and those guys to play this year and played well down the stretch especially. So, I mean, the ties are there. The history with Corey Raymond and LSU are there. It's a big hole to fill probably with a lot of the players. But, LSU has produced DBs for a very long time. And we'll see kind of how the rest of the staff shakes out with Terry Cooks and what his role is and if they hire another corners coach or what they do. But, I think with Frank Wilson coming back and getting named associate head coach, if Corey Raymond was looking for a bigger title, she was probably due as he continues to kind of rise up with those titles. That was probably one that for him not to get maybe was a sign that, okay, maybe I should look elsewhere to kind of progress my career. And who knows, maybe he ends up back in Baton Rouge as a defensive coordinator or a head coach. He obviously has a lot of love for this program and state. So it was an emotional day, I'm sure, but he made that decision, to further his career, and he felt like he had to go to Florida to do it.
Billy Embody joining us here. He covers LSU for 247 Sports. You can follow him on Twitter at Billy Embody. What do you make of Kelly's staff coming together, the timeline in which he is kind of working against right here as far as recruiting goes, and when do you expect some of these bigger jobs, coordinator jobs, start to pop?
Yeah, that's the thing about the staff coming together. It's been pretty kept under wraps. I mean, Brian Polian's name surfaced pretty quickly and the news broke he was coming. Frank Wilson, everyone really held that one down so he could resign and then came to LSU. So that kind of came together quickly. We saw Terry Cooks, who had obvious ties to him and was sitting in an analyst role at Notre Dame. So that one made some sense. But as far as the coordinators go, I'm really, quite honestly, not too sure. I want to think that with it being Thursday, you'd like to be able to see them get maybe one or two of those done before the weekend and early signing period. But I'll say this, with a lot of these players, they've got committed and are still committed. They're coming in this weekend. The Corey Raymond news is probably the one that might throw things for a little bit of a loop with, the corners that they've been recruiting. Who knows what happens with Terrence Welsh and Jadarian Rhyme, Denver Harris. They just offered Jordan Allen, who's coming in on an official visit this weekend. But the recruiting impact is what's important right now. And I think for the most part, not having those in place is not a big deal. I know Brian Kelly went and saw Walker Howard yesterday and had a good talk with him from what I heard. So he's going to be on campus this weekend. So it's can't give you an exact timeline, but I do like what he's putting together so far in the staff. I think Kerry Cooks is going to be one of the more hotly debated ones, just because Corey Raymond did leave, if he is going to coach corners or what his title is going to be. But Frank Wilson knocked it out of the park with that hire, and Brian Polian the same thing, and retaining Brad Davis is a huge deal as well.
What do you make of this 22 class right now, and where it sits just under a week from signing day? How possible is it to keep this class together with this staff still having questions unanswered?
Yeah, I think the big question marks for me are LaTerrence Welsh and Jadarian Rhyme, the two of the best corners in the country they've had committed, and both of them were Corey Raymond recruits. And I think LaTerrence, being a Louisiana kid, he just needs to come in on that official visit and really, get his concerns settled, probably, is my guess. And then, have a meeting probably with Kevin Falk, and see if he can't, feel better about it, because Arkansas is pushing him pretty hard. Jadarian Rhyme is expected at Auburn, and that's one that we're kind of on flip watch at this point. But everyone else, for the most part, seems like they're locked in. And Jake Johnson, he obviously decommitted when Max left, but which really makes Mason Taylor's spot for Mason, a lot better, being the lone tight end right now in the class. And then they could add a really undervalued defensive back in Jordan Allen, who's going to come on an official visit. They've got some other guys that they're bringing in on official visits and trying to, make that last final push. There might be some surprises this weekend as far as who they can get in. Because of the coaching change, they actually get an extra official visit for anyone who has officially visited already. So just one name that at least confirmed to us earlier this week that he's coming is 5-star safety Kamari Wilson. Durante Jones has done a really good job recruiting him, and if LSU can, maybe impress him and overcome the Bulldogs, that would be a massive land at a position of need. And then they've got guys like Denver Harris, who they're going to try to go in home with right before he makes his decision. And we all know, especially after Tack was on your show, how big of a land that would be for LSU. So they've got some hooks in the water. If LSU fans are listening to this, I'll say this: they're going to swing for the fences. They've got guys like Kamari Wilson. They've got guys like Denver Harris. Harold Perkins is out there. Obviously, Jacoby Matthews is going to take it to February. Trevante Citizen told me he's taking it to February. There's some uncommitted guys that are going to take it to February, so you won't have to sweat out the next week. But there are also some big names that are planning to announce in the early signing period. But if those guys don't come through, that transfer portal is getting pretty insane.
Yeah. And
you can kind of minimize your risk in a way by going after players in the portal if they've already been on a college campus for a year, already been in a college weight room. You kind of have more information that you can get, and that can sometimes help you in coaching changes, not make, decisions on recruits that might be more of a reach.
The portal does make things so much more interesting, especially this year when you look at the coaching turnover, you look at this recruiting class, and it's almost like the NFL if you want to build through free agency or you want to almost build your roster through a talented young group, right? I mean, like this transfer portal, especially for a team like LSU who is suffering from offensive line woes and defensive back woes. I mean, you can go in there and get better, really good overnight.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can kind of rebalance your roster. And we know LSU's faced with a wild, scholarship issue, I think, right now with the number of players they're probably going to have going into the spring. So stack up on offensive linemen, rebuild that depth. You'll see some attrition as the program, changes hands to Brian Kelly. I think the cultures are vastly different between what Ed Ogeron built and what Brian Kelly's going to try to build. They've got to get better in the trenches. That's kind of where probably the best thing about the portal is you can go in and really try to find guys that at least look like they're already developed and are on the right track rather than taking a risk on a high school player. That's where I would, if I'm Brian Kelly, that's what I'm looking to do, especially since he couldn't really do it at Notre Dame. That's a new thing for him, and they're going to have to navigate it. But LSU, at least with the personnel staff they have already there, does have some experience mining that portal and finding good fits.
What are you hearing on Shaz Preston?
Yeah, Shaz is an interesting one. He's set to announce in the early signing period. Alabama's held a ton of momentum there. Really haven't heard much on LSU, and then they hire Frank Wilson, and it's a game changer is what his dad told me. And so that's one where it's probably just going to be very interesting down the stretch. Alabama's probably sweating a little bit right now, and LSU's, in need of receivers. And he's one of the best in the state. He's already got a teammate on the roster in Savion Jones. His family's been through the recruiting process before, and Brian Kelly's got to, if he does make it on campus, he's supposed to officially visit Alabama this weekend. And if he makes that visit and LSU doesn't get a chance to go in home, probably tells you all you need to know. But at least from the initial reaction that Frank Wilson was hired, that was huge for the Preston family.
Billy, Frank, these recruits. How much of an impact do you think he could have in a short time? Billy?
You there?
Yeah, you got me? Billy?
You there? Yep.
Yeah, you got me? I think we're losing Billy Embody.
I'm here.
Hey,
there he is.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. How much of an impact do you think? How much of an impact can Frank have in a short time period?
I think with a lot of these kids that are in Louisiana that had some concerns, those concerns can be quelled pretty quickly. I think he'll help with, down the line, Jacoby Matthews, Trevante Citizen, Brad Davis being retained helps with Emory Jones and Will Campbell a lot. Jordan Allen is probably one that Frank Wilson helps with, maybe outside shot. They can flip Aaron Anderson back, but I'm not expecting that right now. I think just having him more so the long term is going to be key, especially he can really sink his teeth into that 2023 class and get them rolling on that front.
Billy, thank you for joining us. Congratulations on all the news that you were going through. I believe you just got engaged. Congratulations and Merry Christmas, bro.
Thank you. I'm like a bad special teams coordinator. I outkick my coverage.
I was going to say that, dude. You kind of did.
No, you definitely did.
That's the goal.
You didn't kind of do it. You definitely did.
That's the goal.
Which is a win. So you're 1-0, bro. See you, man.
Talk about a recruiter.
Billy Embody checking in there from Go 247. He covers LSU for 247 Sports. As that was good stuff. Remember, Daily, we're brought to you by GoFlow IV.